Welcome back. This time we're talking about Alice Through the Looking Glass, a sequel to 2010's Alice in Wonderland. Now before I get into the new film, let me say something about Alice in Wonderland. It wasn't a great film. It was a beautifully produced film. It was very pure Tim Burton as far as you can get pure Tim Burton in a PG movie. Very grotesque at times, macabre even, and tried to tell a very unique version of the Alice in Wonderland story. I personally like the characters, like the setting, a little overabundance of CGI, which doesn't quite hold up all that well 6 years later. But the big problem with it was the story. It just didn't quite live up to all of the trappings around it. And I won't say it was a great film. I did enjoy it a lot more than most people, and probably a lot more than it deserved. And I can pretty much say the same thing about Alice Through the Looking Glass. At the end of the first film, we find Alice back in London, encouraged and strengthened by the adventures that she had in Wonderland, or Underland as it's referred to in these films, and sets off in her father's ship, the Wonder, to help spread his trading company. In the new film, Alice Through the Looking Glass, we find that it's been 3 years since she left, and she finally returns to London, now pretty much a full-fledged ship captain. And I will say, I do like the character arc that they've given Alice in these movies. I like the character of Alice. And she's one of the reasons why I wanted to come back for this film and hope that it would be good. Unfortunately, it really isn't. Tim Burton stays on as producer, but hands over the director's chair to James Bobbin, who did the Muppets movie as well as Muppets Most Wanted, as well as the Da Ali G Show, starring Sacha Baron Cohen, who coincidentally appears in this film as time itself. As I said, Alice returns to London and finds that the situation hasn't gotten much better. Even after 3 years of captaining her own ship and expanding the company's trade routes, she's pretty much ignored. The company is now run by her almost fiance, Hamish, and between his animosity for her turning him down 3 years before, as well as his just very sexist attitude, she's pretty much being tossed aside. And it's at this moment she once again sees Absalom, the now butterfly, and follows him through a mirror and ends up back in Wonderland, or Underland. There she meets all of her friends from the first movie, except for the Hatter, who seems to be very unwell. And to save her friend, she's going to have to set off on a new adventure that will take her through Underland as well as through time itself. Now, as I said, my complaint about the first film was the story just kind of felt flat compared to all of the magical surroundings and these, I don't want to say fully developed characters, but very interesting characters. I wanted to know more about them. I wanted to know more about this world that they were giving us glimpses of, and I really liked Alice's arc. This film doesn't improve any of those problems. In fact, it actually feels a lot lighter. There's no real villain. Not every movie needs a villain, but you have to be a very good, strong, focused movie to not have a villain. This is none of the above. It just feels very one note throughout, very flat. There's not a lot of ebbs and flows in the story to get us amped up for, some action before we go back into not action. I don't even know what to call it. It's just a very blah movie. Another thing I really enjoyed in the first movie was Johnny Depp's performance. He gets a lot of flack, deservedly so, for the very zany roles that he takes. But I really liked his take on the Mad Hatter in the first movie. And his portrayal spoke of some just darkness inside, some real sadness that I never really thought was fully explored in the first movie. In this one, we do get some tidbits on why he would have felt as strongly as he did about some of the things that he was doing in that first film. But it just comes across very forced here. And his performance, honestly, is not that good. I don't know if it's because it's a different director that was trying to get something different out of him, But as in the first movie, where he was just mad and wonderfully so, here he's almost like a child, and it's a high pitched voice that we didn't get in the first film a lot. It just felt off. It didn't feel like the Mad Hatter that we got in the first film that I personally enjoyed. Like the first film, I think I enjoyed it more than most people will, and more than the film itself deserved. Just because I do like what they've done with the Alice character, and I do like what they were attempting to do. This really speaks of lost potential, both of these films. There was a lot of potential here, and I have dogged movies very hard in the past about wasting potential. This is one of those very few movies where I'm upset that they wasted that potential, but I still can see enough of what they were trying to do that I still personally enjoyed it more than I might otherwise. That being said, it's not really a film I can recommend too much. If you did enjoy the first film, you'll probably find enough to enjoy here. The characters are back, probably a little bit more so than they really needed to be. The best way I could describe it is if this was a series. This would almost feel like a filler episode. And when you're doing a movie series, and even if they didn't plan on making a third one, it's Disney, they're always going to make more if it makes enough money to warrant it. You can't afford to have a filler episode. There are times where the stakes are quite high, but it never really elevates beyond feeling like a filler. None of the characters really advance that much. The Hatter, to a point, because that's sort of the point of this mission, is to cure him of his sort of melancholy that he's dealing with. Alice doesn't really grow too much. I mean, she grew a lot in the first film, and obviously a lot in the 3 years in between, but it really feels like what she was doing between the movies was a lot more interesting in the quote-unquote real world than anything she does in Wonderland in this film. I'd rather see that movie, to be honest. So, once again, it's a case of wasted potential. Great cast, great visuals. It just doesn't amount to a whole lot. I think I've kind of gone around in circles as many times as I can to try to explain that, and I think I've done a pretty good job. So, we'll call it a day there. If you saw the first film, you liked it, you might like this one as well. If you didn't like the first one, there's no reason to go see this one. So with that, if you have seen Alice Through the Looking Glass, let me know what you think about the movie. As always, you can subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other reviews, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies.